Welcome to Todd Talk episode 8. I am Todd. On today's episode, I welcome into the studio Mr. Anthony Garcia. He is an extremely talented musician, and in my opinion, he is a Lubbock staple. I invite him in to talk about his growth, his music, his career, and his travels. Again, thank you for all the support, and enjoy the show. And we are live. In today's show, I have in the studio Mr. Anthony Garcia. Hello, sir, and welcome to the show.
Hello.
First thing first, how was the Junior Brown show?
Junior Brown show was really wonderful. Junior Brown is one of my favorite, guitar players. He's been really big influence on my guitar playing for so long. So it was amazing to even just get to meet him.
Right, right.
And it was, I got to play a set. I played about a 45-minute set, and it was wonderful. Great crowd.
Yeah.
And a lot of friends came out and just got to see Junior Brown. It was wonderful.
Sweet.
Really wonderful, positive time.
Was that your first experience at the Cactus, or have you played there before?
I played there before.
Okay, yeah.
I played there before.
I love that venue. I worked there as a teenager when the Caldwells owned it, and just watched it progress and grow. And I was there just a couple of months ago seeing Del McCurry, and it's just a great place to see a show. So, well, welcome to the show, man. You and I were acquaintances, I guess you could call it, when we were teenagers, and I've watched you grow as a musician, and just kind of, one of my favorite things to do is watch musicians mature as they become musicians and adults. And I just kind of wanted to bring you in here and talk about growing up in Lubbock and the impact it had on you as an artist. And, I've talked to other musicians on the show, and we go in, a lot of us grew up out here on punk rock and metal, and I just wanted to get kind of your perspective on youth growing up in Lubbock and where the music's gone now, and we'll touch base on your travels and your tours and all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Growing up in Lubbock, was, I think it was even kind of an ideal place to learn music, because there, as we all know, growing up, being a teenager and in the 90s and even growing up in the 80s, there wasn't really, a lot to do in Lubbock.
Yeah.
And so it was perfect to grab a guitar and sit at the piano for hours and just play. And, and then of course you're talking about the scene, the music. There's a great music scene growing up. I love all the stuff growing up. Like you mentioned, metal and punk and all that. That was certainly at the beginning of my musical experience. As a matter of fact, I didn't even really like or wasn't open to country music or Americana or anything. I don't even think Americana existed back then.
Yeah, I don't think it was a thing in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, but ironically enough, when I was a kid growing up, I started learning classical music pretty early on, when I was about 17, 18, before I ever went out into the world. Because when I started traveling, when I finally left Lubbock and saw that there was a world outside of Lubbock, and even a world outside of the U.S., right. That really opened my eyes to when I first tasted what Europe was like, and just saw, wow, these people have another culture, they have another language, they have a whole history. When I returned to the U.S., I was like, wow, I do too. I do too. My family, my Mexican heritage, and then, of course, my roots in Texas. And I really started paying attention. And, we all want to leave our homes. We all want to leave where we grew up, no matter where you grow up. People, whether it's, you can grow up in Lubbock, you can grow up in New York, you can grow up in Italy.
I think it's a natural progression. I want to go
Thomas
elsewhere.
Mann, that's what Thomas Mann wrote about. Thomas Mann wrote, I can't remember what he wrote, which book it was, but it was about, the whole Wanderlust, and all that. But growing up here was a great. I had a lot of great music friends, and I'm proud to be from here. I'm proud to be from here. I'm always, I always identify, no matter where I live, that I'm from Lubbock. Because there's a lot of great reasons to be identified with Lubbock. Especially in the music.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And when growing up, when you started studying, when you transitioned, I guess, from the punk rock angst to studying classical, and now, did you go to Tech or did you go to South Bend? Did you go to both?
Went to Tech.
Okay. When you started studying classical, what kind of what level of intensity did that take you to?
So I was more of a metal person, metal guy, but I was also a skater. So when I was skating, it's funny, like at least my group of friends that I hung out with that were skaters, it was either like you were into metal or you were into punk and rap at the same time,
Right, yeah.
And so I kind of just experienced like what was happening in the punk world and I ended up, I mean, of course, loving it, but
Sure.
I was really into metal. That was my thing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned about like 7 Seconds and Minor Threat and all those guys through my friends,
Right.
and then Ice-T, and like, you know, they all listen to that. They all jam that out all the time.
Yeah.
And I was into Anthrax, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, you know, all that stuff, you know. So, and that's pretty much all I listened to. And from the time when I was Iron Maiden, of course, from the time I was 12 till I was 17, that's like pretty much all I did. Van Halen, of course, in there. And then ironically, or not ironically, but well, it was ironic. My dad got me a Sony Walkman for Christmas one year, and as a joke, if you remember what a Sony Walkman is,
absolutely.
as a joke, he got me a cassette tape of the best of Bach. And
nice.
and I was like, thanks, thanks, Dad. And it was a joke because he's a joker. So But I was like, you know what? It's Christmas break. I don't have anything to do. I'm just gonna pop this tape in and see what it's about. You know. Yeah. And I still have that cassette. I still have that same cassette. It's like my top one desert island album.
Because got it in a shadow box at your house.
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean,
absolutely.
It's not in a shadow box, but I've got it in a very special place. And it just had all the great. It was the best of Bach, so it was kind of an overview. And so that really opened my mind and my eyes to, because I really feel that Bach was the inventor of heavy metal music. Yeah. You know, he used, and I think a lot of people would agree with that, because he used a lot of the same music theory, he approached music in a harmonic way that a lot of metal approaches it. Yeah. Very virtuosic, especially when he's playing in minor keys. He's doing a lot of harmonic minor stuff, a lot of things, music theory having to do the same with classical music. And Bach was just a virtuosic organist, keyboardist, violinist. Yeah. I mean, he was incredible. Lute.
Yeah.
He was Bach. Right. So that was what appealed to me, like, you know, on that particular recording. And so then I had a piano there, just because my parents had tried to get me to take piano from an early age, which I didn't. But the keyboard was still there, so I would learn his music by ear. Yeah. And so that's how I got involved with making that switch over from really, really just jumping into classical music. And then, of course, during that time, the movie Amadeus came out. And when I saw that, I was just like, these guys were basically rock stars in a time before electricity. Before electricity, you know. But they were definitely rock stars, you know. And or at least Mozart was, you know. Yeah. Bach was a father, and he took care of his children. He took a responsible job as an organist and a teacher to raise his kids so they could. But Mozart was freelance. Yeah. He was just like, I'm going to go out there and just take it. And he ended up, you know, suffering for that. But so I saw that, and I was like, that kind of, you know, I could see some similarities between a lot of my rock idols and stuff. So as a kid, that really showed me classical music's kind of cool. Yeah, you know, it's really cool.
Right.
And then got to college and decided I wanted to study music, and decided that piano was what I wanted to focus on. So I quit everything and devoted my life to piano for like 4 years. So that's how that happened. Okay. And now I've started and I've incorporated all of that into my writing now, you know, and stuff. So,
well, back in the 90s, man, this town was it still is. I'm just not, I'm older now, you're older now, so I'm not really connected to the academics.
Wait a minute. I'm not older.
I'm not as connected to the academic scene as I used to be. But in the 90s, you know, between South Plains and Tech and just all the monster musicians we used to have out here, and, you know, the bluegrass that used to flow out here pretty much endlessly for a while. And, you know, I think that the scene, you know, I talk to other musicians and they say, you know, being out here, like you said, there's nothing to do but play the guitar or the piano for 4 hours, or play the drums, or pick up something. And, you know, a lot of musicians are like, I think the music from Lubbock starts from boredom. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, I can, you know, we have nothing to do, so we just pick up an instrument. We look at people like growing up around here, you know, Joe Ely, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, these monsters, well, at least monsters when we were growing up. What do you think it is about the Lubbock scene that breeds such amazing music?
You know, man, I think that's a whole big discussion. And, you know, to say, you know, great musicians come from everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
And so, you know, I think what Lubbock gives, rather, is there's such a vastness out here. Yeah. There's almost, you know, that's the beauty of West Texas, is that there's just the sky, and you can drive out of the city and there's just fields. You can just see forever. Yeah. And to me, that's very inspiring. You know, that's just, there's such a vastness of it that you can really have some peace of mind to really concentrate on something. And I think that is a big contribution. It's a big contributing factor to creativity out here, a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And, it also, I think there's just an energy out here. There's just a certain energy, you go to, I'm always telling people when I meet them, you go to bigger cities like New York or Austin or wherever, LA, you're going to see great musicians. You're going to see really great musicians, and you're going to see some not so good musicians.
Sure.
And all of those people are from other places. They're from other cities. They're from other even parts of the world. But you go out on a kind of a regular night in Lubbock, and you're going to go to a bunch of different bars, and you're going to hear a bunch of really good musicians. And they all went to high school here. They all grew up here. Most of them were even born here. Yeah. So the per capita of quality music in Lubbock is it's superior to other major cities of the people that are from here.
Right.
So there's something here. There's something, I don't know how I want to get into all the I don't know all this other there's this energy. But I mean, I believe in that, I guess,
No, yeah,
I mean, we would be fools not to.
Yeah.
And Lubbock has that. It does. I mean, look who's come out of here.
There's always this energetic tie between, musicians grow up here, musicians find inspiration in, like you said, the vast fields, the vastness of the skies, the vastness of the region, the haunting winds. And then they move down to Austin, and it's almost like there's this huge kinetic energy between Austin and Lubbock when it comes to at least the creative energies. And I don't know. It's just I asked every musician that, and they seem to have their own thought and opinion. But for the most part, I think they all agree that there's just some kind of universal music.
There definitely is. And everybody that I meet, whenever especially I'm living in Austin now.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm down there, it's always nice to meet other people from Lubbock that live down there. There's a lot of them. But when I meet other Austin musicians, people that have grown up there, people that have lived there their whole lives, I mean, they have nothing but great things to say about Lubbock.
Right.
So it's really a lot. We have a great reputation up here for music, and like we were talking about before we started recording, there's still such a great scene up here.
Yeah.
There's a really great creative scene up here, and it's just it's growing.
Yeah,
and it's kind of pointing back to what the 50s and the 60s. The great writers.
Yeah.
The Blue Light's a great place. It's a wonderful hub of creativity and.
Well, and I think this new Buddy Holly Performing Arts Center is going to bring. I mean, I'm interested to see what kind of dynamic and new changes that brings, and what kind of performances that actually, catapults the Lubbock scene too. Mm-hmm. So, do you remember when we were teenagers? My band did like a thing out on it's 114th and Quaker now.
Was it the skate place?
Well, we had a ramp out there, and we did like a end of the year band thing, and it was called the Lubbock Palooza or something.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah,
man, when I saw you get up on stage at that thing, that's when I knew, God, this guy is for real, because you were still in your Metallica, and I mean, I think we all were in our Black Flag, Metallica, Slayer, whatever your forte was back then. So I knew then, it was like, man, this guy is really for real. And then I hung out with you prior with Jay Walker and a few other cats that used to live down the street from me. So it's just interesting to see the perspective and the growth of everybody that you've grown up with. So what do you consider the longevity of, or like the key to your longevity in the music, staying? Because you and I had the privilege of growing up in analog and digital. Mm-hmm. So back in the day where you wanted to play a club, you had to go give a demo tape. Mm-hmm. And now we live in a world that's just an oversaturated digital market. Mm-hmm. What do you think the key to longevity and exposure is for that?
I think the key to that is being professional, being on time, being a good person, and loving what you do and putting on a good show.
Okay.
And as long as you can physically travel from one place to the other, and you can, and you have, you want to travel, and you're able to do that, and you like people, then you're going to be successful, because, it's just, yes, there's obviously been a big shift. We don't make money from streaming music.
Right.
We make money from, if you have merch, that's what you're going to make your money on. Yeah. Live performance is just going to make you money. That's why everybody's still touring. Yeah. That's why we're seeing all these reunion tours. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't matter what level you're on. It doesn't matter if you're on my level. It doesn't matter if you're on the Eagles level. I mean, whoever, it's just, we all have to keep touring. Yeah. We need that. I mean, unless you get lucky enough to get something placed in a film or video game or something like that. Sure. I mean, which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
But I think, being professional, I think being assertive and being organized, that's the key to longevity. And I think it took me some time to learn that. And I see some musicians who haven't learned that lesson yet. Doing what we do, meaning quote unquote touring, gigging,
right,
working hard.
Yeah.
That percentage of the percentage that involves actually playing music and actually anything having to do with music is very small. Right. The majority of that is being organized, having the initiative to get up and get on your computer or your phone,
right,
and say, "This is who I am. This is this is me." And it doesn't matter how talented you are.
Right.
That doesn't even matter.
Right.
What matters is how do you present yourself.
Yeah.
Are you going to pick something small to complain about? If a club cancels you on a date, are you going to cry about that and threaten to sue them?
Right.
It's
crazy that we live in that kind of society now.
No, you have to be easygoing.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're all human beings.
Yeah.
If you can bring a quality performance, you can connect with their audience. People are happy. They're spending money at their venue. You're making money. Everybody's happy, and that's the key. I think. I think that's the key. Being professional, being organized.
Yeah. You're right, because sometimes, as we see in the world almost on a daily basis now, there's people making it on YouTube and everything that really have never even performed or don't have a whole lot of talent at all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have what's your thoughts and opinions on the social media? I mean, it's a love-hate thing with
mm-hmm.
many people, and I realize that a lot of people have to take an hour or 2
mm-hmm.
hours. It's basically a part-time job for people that are artists or,
mm-hmm.
or independently employed. It's a necessity, but that aside, what are your thoughts and opinion with it? Do you think it's a good exposure? Do you think it's oversaturated?
I think it's good. I mean, nowadays that's the first thing that I get asked.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was kind of a little, I was a little reluctant to, get into that at first, because like, no, man, my music should speak for itself, man. But it's a tool, and it's good. Everybody's on the different platforms. Everybody is. I'm trying to bring MySpace back, honestly. That's what I'm trying to do. Actually, restarted my MySpace account.
Good for you, man.
There's no Tom, man. Tom's gone.
Tom's gone. He works for Facebook now.
I don't probably. But I've gotten to the point where I've really gotten all that organized. I've gotten all of that. I even have like a business card on the back of it has all my all my stuff.
Yeah.
It's just to where, as maybe a year ago I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna. I just don't really want to waste my time doing that. But it's good. I mean, it really helps. It really helps get into other gigs. It helps people want to know if they enjoy your music, if they enjoy you, if you've moved them in a certain way in a live performance. They want to know who you are.
Right.
And you have to make it as easy for them to get to know you as possible. And that's just one way that people can. That's one avenue.
Right. The exposure. And nowadays people don't even really use websites. They wouldn't go to specific people are going to go to AnthonyGarcia.com or things of that nature. Most everybody's just going to go to whatever social
Anthony Garcia music.com.
Oh, Anthony Garcia.
Because there's only about 5 million Anthony Garcias out there. Well, that's my website. Right. Anyways,
that's funny.
So there's several Anthony Garcias. One of them is, so if you Google my name, you're going to see a dude that was sentenced to death. You're going to see several criminals, and then there's a guy in Australia who's like, I think he's like Samoan, and he's kind of tall and dark complected, looks like me, has a ponytail, but he's like just about maybe 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
So it's like it looks like me with before I lost a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because sometimes venues will just very lazily Google my name and grab his website and throw it on there, and it's like then there's a photo of me on where I'm going to play. Yeah. And people are like, dude, is this you? And I'm like,
you're looking a little rough.
Like, dude, no, it's not me. So anyways, I just wanted to clarify AnthonyGarciaMusic.com because it's it's the way it is. That's my name.
Yeah. And you claim it, man. So what's the thought process on the growth of Lubbock? What do you think of the new happenings here? What do you think of the bringing beer into the city limits?
Oh, dude. Oh my gosh. It was so, that is like, thank you, Jesus. Because, what's funny about that? So I was living that happened in 2009. the spring of 2009. I remember it like when the city council was voting on making Lubbock, making a Lubbock White County.
Yeah.
And I lived in South Korea for 4 years as I was an English teacher.
Yeah.
I had just moved to South Korea. So during my break, during my school teaching break, for somehow it worked out where I could watch the Lubbock City Council vote live online. I was watching it in South Korea. And I was like,
great.
dude, they're gonna make Lubbock. And I was like, why do I care about this? I'm living in South Korea, but I just cared about it. I just really, really, really cared about it.
It's a big deal for us.
It's wonderful. Like, why? Who would not? I do, but I do kind of miss the Strip. The Strip was pretty cool.
Right, and now you drive out there and it's just like
that was institution.
And the lights aren't even on anymore, and there's nothing out there anymore.
I'm gonna give a shout out to one of my friends in Austin. Do you know Chris Oglesby?
I do.
Yeah. Have you seen his? So Chris is an artist. He does pretty cool. His art is called Pretty Cool Art.
Okay,
that's what he calls it.
Yeah.
And have you seen that painting he did of the Strip?
I haven't.
It's awesome, man.
I
wanted him to do T-shirts of that. It's great. It's got it's got the cellar. It's got a pinky. It's just
all
it's
the neon
a wonderful
signs, everything. Yeah.
It's really cool. But
that's
it was an institution. It was it was definitely a Lubbock landmark.
Well, and then, nowhere else in the world, or maybe nowhere else in the country, did you have to go drive out to buy 80 beers at a time so you'd have enough for the evening.
Or you realize towards the end of your keg party that you're running out of beer. So you know what I'm talking about. Oh, everybody's handing their dollars and then do a strip run to the Strip.
Well, you remember the big Easter party they used to have out on like 120th in Indiana? That was, that's probably some of the craziest. That's probably some of the most out of control I've ever seen Lubbock get at those Easter bashes.
Those were amazing, dude. Those were so amazing.
They were insanity. So let's talk about your travels a little bit. Mm-hmm. I do know, because the voyeuristic world we live in, I see you randomly. And
are you trying to say you're creeping on me?
I think everybody creeps on everybody, right?
I don't. I totally creep on everybody.
So I know you went to South Korea and taught, and you've been all over Europe. And then, what's it like being a traveling musician? What was the first time you stepped on a pub or something in Europe, and what was the rush you got, and how did it feel? And
well, what started my interest in travel was when I was in high school.
Okay. I
met a couple of people a couple of girls that were exchange students here in Lubbock. Okay. And they were from one of my really great friends. Her name is Rebecca, and I still keep in touch with her. As a matter of fact, I'm going to there this summer.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to be playing over in Germany. She went to Coronado High School.
Oh, nice.
And I met her and then a friend of mine named Valerie who was from Paris. And I had never been to Europe. I was 17, and we just became friends. It was just right. I was fascinated. I was like, these people are from like another they speak English weird. Yeah. English isn't even their first language. I'd never met anybody. That had never happened to me growing up in Lubbock. I became fascinated. So myself and my girlfriend at the time, we made a trip. We just decided, guess what? We're going to go to Europe for 3 months. 3 months.
Nice. All right.
That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Backpack but we're going to visit our friends. These, and then we had other family. She had other family that were over there. Anyways, so that was my first exposure to traveling abroad anywhere, and that was in 1994.
Okay.
And after that, ever since then, it was just,
must.
Well, music is. I love music, but I really feel like travel is my real passion in life. Travel is my passion.
That's one of my favorite things in the world is traveling.
Yeah, man. I feel like music is my life and travel is my passion. Yeah. And so, it was a while before I actually performed abroad. I would always just go abroad to just travel and experience cultures and stuff like that. And I haven't really started getting into traveling, performing abroad until the past couple of years.
Okay.
Just in the past couple of years. Yeah. But after that, after I traveled to Europe for the first time, got a pretty good overview of Europe. Those 3 months I was over there, and I was 19, so it was like
3 months is a long time.
It was a long time, and I saw a lot of stuff. Started in Italy, went through Austria, Germany, France, and went to Amsterdam, went to England. Yep. So and then after that, I was like, I'm going to do an exchange year. I'm just going to be an exchange student. Yeah. I don't care what it is. And I sat down with the counselor at Tech. And she was like, everybody pays $1 fee into the international fee. And there's 20,000 students here. And so there's just $20,000 just sitting there waiting for, and nobody uses it. Wow. And I was like, how am I going to use this? Yeah, exactly. So she helped me out. And I was like, I'm going abroad. And I had tried to go to Spain. Okay. Those were my first two choices because I wanted to study there. And my third choice was Germany.
Okay.
So I ended up getting Germany, and it was 30 minutes from my friend Rebecca, who she was going to med school.
Yeah.
So went over there and stayed over there for a year. I got my minor in German. I speak fluent German.
Nice.
And that was an amazing year because I got to know Europe even more.
Yeah.
I mean, traveled as much as possible.
Right.
So then after that, as far as traveling, traveled here and there. Lived in New York for a little bit, which I consider a foreign country.
Yeah, it pretty much is.
Really
yeah,
do.
Yeah.
It really is. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not your typical American city.
No.
And you can go anywhere in the world you want to at any given moment in
Right.
New York City.
Yeah.
And then was living in Lubbock and decided I moved back from New York, and then decided I wanted to. I was playing a lot of gigs here. I was living in Lubbock, playing every night, and it was just kind of getting. It wasn't Lubbock. It was just me. I was just kind of bored. I was just like, I need to just every couple of years I need a baptism of fire is what I call it. And so I was like, I'm going to go to Asia, and just went to Asia. Yeah. And I was with a girl at the time, and I told her, well, I'm going. You can go if you want. She went, and 1 year turned into 4 years. And it was after coming back from Korea that I really started putting energy into travel. I was like, when I was in Korea, I was like, I want to travel around Europe. I want to travel playing music, and I really started. That was my goal. Yeah. And so I came back from Asia in 2013, and ever since then, I've just been hitting the pavement hard. And I guess that was 6 years. So I've just been really just playing, working as much as possible, work hard here, go over to Europe and play, and I've just been going back and forth for the past couple of years now, and it's been great, and been making really great connections over there, really good friends, and then they'll come over here and play, and I help them out over here, so it's really got a nice exchange going on of friends.
There's living in Europe myself for some long period of time. I really found that the arts, rather it's music, rather it's art, painting. I blew glass over there for a long period of time that I was over there, and the arts are just received way differently over there, and it's almost like it's impregnated within their cultures. And I found that to be, as a performer and as an artist, something that was a little more welcoming than.
And you're talking about Holland.
Yeah. That was where home base was in Holland. That's where I lived with my wife at the time, and yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and I find that too in Germany. I find that. Germany is very, very, very receptive, kind of just like Holland. They're very similar in that way.
They are so much similar.
They're much.
They would kick your ass if you told them that.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying is as far as being supportive.
Oh,
of
yeah,
arts.
yeah.
You go over to Germany and Switzerland, Germany, and I was in Switzerland last summer.
Yeah.
Man, those people are so they're really generous, with money. Yeah. They're generous with supporting the artists. Yeah. And I'd never played in Holland, but I have heard the same. And I didn't mean they were similar culturally. I meant that they were similar.
Yeah, I was just giving you a hard time.
Stop.
Well, I know I was over there for the World Cup, and when it came to Germany and Holland, boy, you did not mix anything up. You didn't.
But as far as from my experience, France is not necessarily a great. I mean, I've played in France many times, and it's I love France. I wish I want to live there. But as far as they don't have the same support of the art, the music culture. I was amazed at that. I was really amazed. Right. And again, that's just what I've seen. I'm sure that there's people that live there that would say something different.
Yeah, have a different perspective.
But I've been to Germany many times, and it's just been positive every time. Yeah. Every time, like more than positive. Yeah. I've never played in Italy, but I've kind of heard the same thing about Italy. That's also really a little bit more difficult. Yeah. Played in Spain. They were, that was pretty good. I only did like one show there, but
the problem with Spain is you got to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning because they don't start partying until 1 o'clock.
Yeah. But yeah, I found that like you're saying, Holland and Germany and Switzerland too. Switzerland's great.
And you performed in Asia. How did you find the reception of the Asian culture to Americana country Anthony Garcia music?
So that's a pretty interesting question because. What we would do, I went over there, like I said, with a girlfriend, who was also a musician. We played in a duo. And
was that Outlier? Is that when Outlier came about?
No, we were called Poco Lambro. We played around.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's correct.
We played around Lubbock a lot, and then we went over there. And so we ended up playing. There's a giant expat community over there of English teachers, right, from all parts of the English-speaking world.
Sure.
So our typical gigs, the majority of our gigs were in the the Irish pub or the
Right.
the expat the
Right.
expat hangouts, you know.
Yeah.
And we would generally get a really good crowd. I mean, it was more than what you would think. Like playing in a bar, maybe here at home, you're gonna have people that are watching sports and they're not really there to listen to the music.
Right.
And I was amazed that at our first gig we showed up. It was just like people just showed up and they wanted to hear. They were there to hear the music.
Wow.
And it was kind of like that every time.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it wasn't just us. I mean, it was like that's how they felt because
Sure.
we're on the other side of the world and people really just want to hear something that's familiar to them. They want to we all want a hamburger. We all want to listen to some rock and roll.
Right.
It's like a nice beer.
Yeah.
And so and then there would also be the Koreans that were curious about. So they would kind of show up.
Yeah.
But then I did play a lot of shows that were we were hired by like a Korean university or we'd be hired by sometimes Korean nightclubs. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. But we would get hired, and first of all, karaoke is it's such a part of their culture.
Yeah.
So for them to hear real Americans singing their favorite song,
Right,
what I mean, like Country Roads and all that stuff, which is what you do, yesterday, all those like Let It Be. They love that stuff.
Yeah.
So they really loved. Because sometimes we would get hired to play a specific. Look, the Americans are here. And we'd have to play certain. It was just fine. I don't care.
No. It's music all the same.
But doing some of the Korean nightclubs, that was a different scene, man. That was a different scene. It was like something out of a movie. I'm not kidding you, man. But it was good. It was good. It was a very positive, fun experience. I mean, and it was a wonderful time to be creative. Yeah. Because
how was living over there as far as the the political I don't even know what's going on over there. I just know that there just seems to be a lot of give and take between North and South, and America always seems to stick their foot in their ass when they don't need to.
Well, that's always been there. I mean, that was always there, of course. Is
there like an underlying thing of like we could be bombed any day, or is that all just media propaganda?
There are sirens. There are sirens that go off. Sure. Most of the time there were drills. I mean, I don't want to say it's propaganda, but there was definitely living there didn't feel as dangerous as it was portrayed in the media. But there's always the threat. There's definitely the tension and the hatred. And it was just as far as that goes, it wasn't really something you saw it's always in the back of our mind. Right. I mean, when I was living there, there was a submarine that was submarine that was shot down, the Chonan. That was I'm sorry, not shot down. It was they
blew it up,
torpedo at it. So it's just kind of weird. Like there would be those things that would happen. I mean, they sank a South Korean submarine. And it's just like, do we retaliate? What do we do about that? And then one of the first stories I heard was there was a woman that was hiking too close to the North Korean border, and the North Korean military shot her, and she was just at a resort. Right. And it's just, you would hear about certain things like that, fishermen disappearing, South Korean fishermen disappearing. Right. So things would happen, but there was just not. I didn't, there was no military. There was not like, okay, that's the last straw. We're going to, start World War III. But you would hear these things. It was just it was a very tense, a lot of tension. But and I lived very, 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 very far south, the southernmost part of South Korea, in a town called Busan. Okay. So we were also pretty far from the DMZ. A lot of So but it was always there. Learned a lot about.
And do you find that the South Korean people are, not to sound cliche, but they're resilient. They just go on about life regardless of
absolutely,
whatever can happen that day or tomorrow.
And I would say that resilient is probably the best way to describe the South Korean people. Yeah. Because if you think about it, 60 years ago, they were a peasant country that was being ruled, that was being fought over by basically being ruled by Japan in World War II and then fought over by the Russians and the Chinese. I mean, they were just being bullied around. Yeah. And now they have one of the leading economies in the world, Samsung, LG, Kia. I mean, they're really, just went from 0 to like 1,000 in 60 years. I mean, that's pretty
impressive.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm sure, they are humbled by everything that's been, that's happened to them, by the generations that have been lost, by the, just the stuff that's happened to them over the last 50, 60 years. So, That's pretty sweet, man. I always admire, because Vietnam and Thailand are definitely on my list. Neither of them I've been to yet, but I do have just a small infatuation with just kind of Asian cultures in general, and their pride, their just I don't know, their hospitality. There's just something about them that I really want to travel and experience.
There's something completely different about each part,
Yeah, yeah.
And the great thing about living over there, one of my friends jokes is like the best part of South Korea is Thailand. Because we would always, a lot of us had a lot of vacation time because we were professors at universities. I ended up getting a university job. It's just tons of vacation time.
Sure.
And so that's the chance to travel. I mean, that right there. Just get a flight to Bangkok, Beijing, or wherever. Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Japan,
pretty much everything,
anywhere you want to go. And I wish I had traveled more to different parts of Asia. I did travel quite a bit, but once I discovered Thailand, it was like I just kept going back there.
Yeah, man,
because that place is like
Thailand has got to be. Yeah. And I think I would fall in love with Vietnam as well. Just much like Thailand, just from pamphlets and brochures and hotel or airport posters. It's like, man, Thailand and Vietnam just look really hospitable.
Well, it's true. It's Thailand. I never went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because I was always told like, Vietnam is like Thailand. It's maybe just a little bit, a little bit rougher, maybe a little bit,
Sure.
And I was like, well, then I'm just gonna go to Thailand.
Right. I mean, if I got the same beaches and the same,
also I would try to go to a different part of Thailand each time I went, so get to discover something different. But I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about Thailand.
I just the food alone would probably drag me over there. So when it came to living in Asia, did you adapt to the food? Do you enjoy the food?
Yes.
Because it's one of my favorite things on the planet is Asian food.
As a matter of fact, it's kind of interesting. Like I said, I went over with my girlfriend at the time, and she is half Korean.
Okay.
And so we met way before I even thought of going to Asia.
Right.
And so I had never had Korean food, and her mom's from Korea. And,
okay.
So I learned what kimchi was. I learned what kimchi jjigae was. I learned about all these different foods, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I was like, well, now I'm going to go live in Korea. So I was kind of familiar with it before I even went over there.
Yeah.
And of course, there's food in Korea that you can't get back over here, which I miss. But I was in Korean food is definitely its own thing.
To me, all the pickles and all the
pickle veggie,
the garlic shoots and everything that they have is just like, good Lord.
Yeah.
The sides alone are a meal, man.
Yeah, that's true. There's a great Korean place here in town.
Yeah, we go. I go there frequently.
Those guys are cool too.
And I like Saigon too because they got pretty good pho over there. I actually ate so much pho living in Colorado. I developed a rice allergy. My Chinese herbologist that I used to go up there was like, yeah, you got to stop eating rice, bro. Your whole body's rejecting all the rice you put into your body. So, well, let's go back to your music a little bit and talk about, what's your process, what's your writing process? Do you have a process? Is it kind of meditative to you? How do you go about composing your music?
A lot of it is just, it can either be one of two things. One way is like, I want to make an album and I'll just have a vision. I'll just say, I want this album to be like, I want it to sound like this. Yeah. And I'll just write it to sound like that.
Okay.
And then other times it's just traveling is a real big, traveling is a really big, catalyst for writing, for me.
I was going to ask you if that had
that's
a lot
big
to
time,
do.
big time. Yeah. So, I mean, I made an album, I had my group called Outlier, and I decided before I was actually living in Korea, came home for vacation for about 4 months, and then went back and started a new job. And it was just so nice being back in Lubbock. I spent 4 months in Lubbock with my folks, and
a little easier pace at that time, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was nice because it was the springtime. It was this time of the year, which we're end of March right now. So it was end of March to July.
Nice.
And that's the perfect time to take your guitar drive it out to the country and just, and I was like, I want an album that sounds like Townes Van Zandt, Hendrix, and Bach. That's what I want my album to sound like. And I want it to be this dark Gothic Americana.
Yeah.
And then that's what I did. I just wrote the album like that.
Good for you.
And so that sometimes that's how that happens.
Yeah.
And I did another piano violin album, and I was like, I want this album to sound like Eric Satie.
Okay.
And I want it to sound like a little bit like Debussy, and I want to really make this like very beautiful, just violin and piano album. And I wrote that.
Write it out,
you know. So that's how those two albums worked out. And otherwise, you just kind of, if it hits you, then you can't do anything about it. You just got to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was always, Paul Simon's been one of my biggest. I love him, and I always, when I was younger, I read a couple of books about him, and he used to always talk about how he just bounce a basketball on the flat of his New York apartment, smoke a joint, and lay on the floor and write songs. And I was like, well, that seems like a pretty creative process. So, and it's just unique to see every musician and how they go about their whole writing process and
yeah. It is interesting. It is a process, and the creative process is a whole, it's a whole thing. It's a whole topic in and of itself. I mean, there's podcasts and books and all these people. I mean, and everybody has their own. You have to create your own little environment. You have to remember what you do to be creative. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, I have songs that sometimes I don't remember even. I mean, I know that I wrote it. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't remember writing it, but what I'm saying is I don't remember like having to really work for it. I just remember, and I'm like, wow, I wrote that song. Yeah. So there's just that side of it too. Sometimes it just kind of happens. Yeah.
Are you self-sustainable? Do you have an agent? Do you do everything on your own? Okay.
I do everything primarily on my own. Okay. But it's interesting as a result, like going back to working hard and really putting yourself out there and doing it all yourself. I have had people who are agents who are who do that kind of thing or have connections have, because they see me working hard, they want to help me. Yeah. So I do work with a couple of guys. There's a good guy in Austin that I've been kind of networking with, and then has helped me out. So sometimes people will just either say it's either me cold calling. Right. I'd say it's about 50% of me cold calling people, and then 25% of like once I've performed, it kind of coming back on autopilot. Right. And then, kind of people kind of calling me like, hey, we saw you play at this place. Do you want to play at this? I mean, that's been what it's been like lately. So it's in Texas now. It's kind of autopilot. I don't have to push too hard. I don't have to really push hard. To and then in Europe, it's like it's been I had a lot of cold calling. Right. But then it's people that I've helped out, or when we help each other out, I mean that's the best. Yeah, that's the best way.
I mean that's kind of the music community. Yeah. I mean it should always be a camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. And that's the best, because especially I'm going to Europe in May. The majority of those gigs I didn't have to push for.
Nice.
They were just given. They were just like my couple friends were just like, "Do you want to play this date? I can hook it up. Boom! I can hook you up with my buddy that's a booking agent. Boom!" And I've only had to push for like maybe 2 gigs, I think.
Good for you.
And so but at the same time, when they come over here, I do the same thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just did it yesterday. I was like, "This date work for you?" Boom, cool. And I hooked the whole thing. So it's just it's I think it's all a result of hard work. Yeah. Just like I think that's the thing with musicians. Sometimes we feel like or the younger musicians, maybe. If I'm good, somebody's going to notice me, and I'm going to get signed to a label, and then the label's going to take care of everything. Well, the majority of times,
it doesn't happen like that anymore.
First of all, labels don't really
they don't exist
are nothing.
Anymore.
But even somebody to take over, nobody wants to manage somebody who's lazy.
No.
I want to help somebody out who's already kicking ass.
There. Absolutely.
You're kicking ass. I'm going to help you even more.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the thing, is you just got to do it from yourself. People see you working hard, they want to help you.
And I think that's a huge difference between. Certainly the decades, but the analog and going back to the analog and digital, I think that's a huge difference between, when you first started out as musicians, and a lot of people I know first started out as musicians, you guys were doing demo tapes. You had to go sign an hour in the studio just to get a song down, so you could, so somebody at the local bar could do it. So now there's almost not even a reason to not do it. There's no reason not to push your art, to push your music, to. Like I said, it's pure laziness. If you don't explore the avenues that are available, then you're hurting yourself at that point. There's, I don't know. It's a hard world to make it, man. So you really got to push it, and you got to sell yourself and be the shameless self promoter and all that good stuff. And so it just goes around and around. I mean, as an artist, as a musician, the whole thing is, it's there at your hands. The record label and that kind of thing doesn't exist anymore. Nobody's going to show up at Studio 54 and be like, "Man, he really had a good mix. Let's hunt him down." Yeah. It doesn't work.
Well, it's like I mean, it's like the John Lennon quote. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but he was just like, "I always just sing for myself." Yeah. And if people are listening, that's fine. I just, that really taught me a lot. When I heard that quote. I was like, that makes, I
Yeah.
kind of started approaching performance that way.
Yeah.
And you want to engage people. You want people to enjoy you, but
Right.
that's not why you do it. You don't do it to please them. You do it.
No.
They enjoy you because you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, when I started blowing glass and making glass and things, I never really thought of creating art for consumption.
Right.
And that was a huge leap for me, and a huge maturity jump, I guess, to really take it from, oh, okay, so what I am making is consumable. People do enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think that, at that point, if you got to treat it like a business, and once you treat it like a business, then hopefully in return it'll, you'll get the business out of it. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting world to be an artist, for damn sure. So, well, all right, my friend, 45 minutes. Sound good to you?
That was like a massage.
All right. You want to
no happy ending.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough for coming in. It's a pleasure to see you again. It's a pleasure to follow your travels, and I look forward to seeing where you go next.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Of course, you want to plug all your stuff and tell people where to find you?
Yes. Once again, my website is anthonygarciamusic.com. I'm on Facebook at this very short name called Anthony Garcia Music Austin. And let's see here. On Instagram, Anthony Music, but instead of the A, it's the @ sign. So Anthony Music. I think that's it.
Cool.
And of course, MySpace.
Yeah, you're bringing it back, brother.
Yeah, you gotta just search for me on there. You find me.
All right, man. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening and tuning into this episode. We'll talk to you soon. Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Todd Talk Podcast. This episode and all episodes are brought to you by ToddHassellGlassArt.com. That is ToddHassell glassart.com. This specific episode is brought to you by Anthony Garcia Music. That is AnthonyGarciaMusic.com. Please, friends, wherever you're at, look him up, follow his tour, check him out on Facebook. He has some interesting travels and some wonderful music. As always, thank you for the support. We'll talk to you soon.